should focus on. Consultations are on in Aso Rock to articulate Nigeria's interest and position. In other news, the Ramadan fast is, well, fast winding up, and not a few Muslims will be looking out for the new moon from tomorrow. Also tonight, Makudi residents are seeing the light, literally speaking, and one foremost Nigerian officer and gentleman, octogenarian, has taken up another fight, this time against hepatitis, just like he did with guinea worm. If you are wondering about this package, then stay on News Extra with me, Aisha Bello Mustafa. Thank you for joining us. Ahead of his planned visit to the United States, President Muhammadu Buhari has met with key individuals and organizations aimed at properly articulating Nigeria's agenda to the bilateral talks. Among them is the former Commonwealth Secretary General Chief Emeka Anyaoku. Let's get more on this from State House correspondent Adamu Sambo.
President Muhammadu Buhari's meeting with the former Commonwealth Secretary General Chief Emeka Anyaoku, held behind closed doors, discussed issues relating to his planned meeting with the United States President Barack Obama next week in Washington, D.C.
I put at his disposal the benefits of my experience, long experience on governance matters. Of course, we touched on some national issues because of the strong link between foreign policy and domestic policies.
Chief Anyaoku did not give details about his discussion with the president, but said he finds in the Nigerian leader a man that is focused, trustworthy, and has the interests of Nigeria at heart.
I found myself talking with a president who is very determined to effect a real change in the circumstances of our country, and very determined to bring to bear on his administration the generally perceived attributes of his character, for which I believe that many Nigerians voted for him. I believe that he is determined to fight corruption, and that he will go a long way.
President Buhari also held a strategic meeting with some permanent secretaries, including those of Foreign Affairs, Power, Defense, Trade and Investment, as well as heads of key government agencies on the upcoming visit to the United States. The meeting reviewed the program of activities for the visit and analyzed issues that may come up during the bilateral meeting between Nigeria and the United States.
While in the United States, he will not only speak to the President of the United States, Barack Obama, but he will have an opportunity to meet the wider public. And so he will share his vision. He will share the program that he has brought with him into office. And of course, will sell those potential areas that Nigeria would want partnership, as well as to call for support in the areas that Nigeria will need support. Top on the list will be support in the security challenges we are facing in the northeast of the country.
The permanent secretary, who confirmed that there was a strained relations between Nigeria and the United States in the past, however, said with the election of President Muhammadu Buhari, the situation has changed for the better.
The renewed interest will arise naturally, one will say, from the manner of victory of President Muhammadu Buhari. And number two, the overwhelming support that he got in Nigeria. And for the United States to invite him within his first 2 months in office, it attests to this fact that he enjoys tremendous goodwill. He is recognized for his legitimacy. And besides that, I must add, his personal quality as an incorruptible individual is what has really sold him as a leader of credibility.
President Buhari also granted audience to some prominent Nigerians from various backgrounds, including a publisher and columnist, Chief Dele Momodu, where issues on the way forward for Nigeria were discussed.
Today, he reassured me that not only does he know what he is doing, he's determined to make Nigeria work. And I'm happy he said we should argue with him, we should tell him if things are going wrong, and we should not be afraid. And for a man who has been maligned for so many years, saying he doesn't like the press, he doesn't like, so it's a welcome development.
Chief Dele Momodu, who confirmed that President Muhammadu Buhari reads ferociously and has high regards for journalists, said his discussion with him was frank and touched on many issues, including insecurity, the fight against corruption, and the affirmative action for women. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, security, war against terrorism, trade and economic relations will top the agenda of President Buhari's visit to the United States, where he is expected to hold talks with President Barack Obama and other senior officials of the United States government. A statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, says President Muhammadu Buhari will discuss with President Obama and other United States government officials measures to strengthen and intensify bilateral and international cooperation against terrorism in Nigeria and West Africa. President Buhari, who leaves Abuja on Sunday, will meet President Obama at the White House on Monday and later that day hold further talks with the chairman of the United States Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Martin Dempsey, and the Deputy Secretary of Defense, Robert Work, on military and defense cooperation. The president will also meet with the United States Vice President and other top United States government officials to seek support for the administration's war against corruption and the effort to boost trade relations between Nigeria and the United States. He will be accompanied by the governors of Imo, Nasarawa, Edo, Borno, and Oyo states, as well as the governor of the Central Bank and permanent secretaries of Ministries of Defense, Foreign Affairs, Industry, Trade and Investment. President Buhari will also take advantage of the visit to reunite with members of the American War College class of 1980, of which he was a distinguished participant. The president is due back in the country on Thursday next week. In the meantime, there are calls for the advancement of Nigeria's national interest during diplomatic negotiations or talks with other countries, especially developed economies. Talatu Ezerike reports that this was a major submission on NTA's Current Affairs program, Tuesday Live. Take a look.
It is countdown to President Muhammadu Buhari's visit to the United States on the 20th of this month to strengthen Nigerian-U.S. diplomatic ties. The interest of many Nigerians is for a relationship that is based on mutual respect and balance to address the anomalies in areas of engagement that include agriculture and food security, economic development, particularly poor benefits under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA.
We hope he should seek for a review of the acts constituting AGOA itself so that it will favor Africa and Nigeria in particular.
I would like our president to look into diversification of our economy.
There are many issues Nigerians want President Buhari to take to the United States. Among them, America's commitment to assist Nigeria in the fight against terrorism. Another issue is why the U.S. stopped buying Nigerians' oil at a critical point when the nation is grappling with economic challenges.
We should try as much as possible to go with a compact shopping list, which invariably will revolve around Boko Haram.
They are very fond of talking to us about the issue of corruption. So I really want to believe that that also is going to be on the table. If you are going to help us get back the money that has been taken out there, you also have to give us a profit.
Do you know why America stopped buying Nigerian oil? The reason is that PIB is a punishment to Nigeria because of our PIB. And also because Nigeria has been seen as to have been rising to the level of being that powerful nation in Africa.
The discussants advised Nigerians to be open-minded about the outcome of the visit and try to understand America's sudden interest in Nigeria.
the Americans are interested in winning Nigeria to be on her side. Why? Because the Americans are in stiff competition with the Chinese for leadership of the world.
America operates only on the basis of its own interests, nothing else. During our worst, economic and political periods, they kept on predicting that Nigeria will collapse in 2015.
That our relationship is defined not by what the United States can do for Nigeria, but rather what the United States can do with Nigeria.
It was generally agreed that Nigeria is not a country to be taken for granted. They therefore submit that issues of good governance, developmental programs, and the fight against corruption be taken seriously to give the nation the much desired respect and growth. Talat Ezerike, NTA News.
In another development, Spain has pledged to assist Nigeria in fighting insurgency through intelligence gathering. The Spanish ambassador to Nigeria, Alfonso Sebastian, announced this at a meeting with the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Unkwo tells us more about the meeting.
This part of deadly attacks by Boko Haram in Nigeria in the last 6 years attracted a number of foreign interventions, especially from neighboring countries. Spain has now joined countries that have pledged to support Nigeria in the fight against the terrorists. A meeting with Speaker Dogara, the Spanish ambassador to Nigeria, Alfonso Sebastian, stated that the two countries agreed to enhance their bilateral relations through exploring new opportunities of partnership, especially in the areas of security, agriculture, power, tourism, and parliamentary friendship.
Most intelligence, we are right now negotiating intelligence and training. We are right now negotiating an agreement with Nigeria and, that includes the fight against terrorism.
Speaker Dogara also called on Spanish businessmen to invest in Nigeria's solid mineral sector.
In the area of treaties and agreements, government, of course, is a continuum. We are aware of agreements entered into between Nigeria and Spain in the past by past governments. These agreements or treaties are something that we intend to give them force of law. Very soon, we are going to have a committee in the House of Representatives that will look at some of those treaties that we've not been able to domesticate so that we can quickly do so.
They want to engage, they want to bring their own expertise to building our capacity in the area of, training our armed forces, training our intelligence personnel.
This is the fourth time a foreign ambassador will be visiting the Speaker since the House went on recess. But it's very significant to know that all the four ambassadors pledged to support Nigeria in the fight against insurgency. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Unkwo, NTA News.
Turning to religious matters now, the Sultanate Council of Sokoto has requested the Muslim community to look out for the new month of Shawwal tomorrow, Thursday, the 16th of July. A statement issued by the chairman, Sultanate Advisory Committee on Religious Affairs, Professor Sambo Wali Junaid, said, if cited, the nearest village or district head should be contacted for onward communication to the Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Saad Abubakar. In another development, governments at all levels have been enjoined to imbibe the spirit of justice, equity and fairness to all as a panacea to the current security threats and challenges in the country. This is part of the communique issued at the end of this year's Ramadan Tafsir, organized by an Islamic group, the Sunnah Movement. Abdullahi Musa Suleja has the details.
The group, Idalat al-Bid'a wa Iqamatu Sunnah, with its headquarters in Jos, has for about a decade now been sending Islamic scholars to 36 states in Nigeria and Abuja, as well as some African countries, to conduct the Ramadan Tafsir. This year, a total of 475 ulamas have been sent out for the mission. Ustaz Raj Sabo Kefi led a team of 6 ulamas to FCT as he carried out the Tafsir at FHA Mosque Maitama with Hafiz Umar Yahuza Bauchi, who read the Holy Quran.
الآمرون بالمعروف والناهون عن المنكر والحافظون لحدود الله
The federal government is called upon to put in place some palliative measures to assuage the effect of the current economic hardship being experienced by average Nigerians.
Similarly, the Legislative Quarters Jumaat Mosque Apo under its Imam Nur Muhammad Khalid has also closed its tafsir for this year's Ramadan. Imam Khalid said the ulamas will not relent even after Ramadan to continue to admonish the followers on good behavior. In Abuja, Abdullahi Musa Suleja, NTA News.
The Muslims who fasted during the whole month of Ramadan to pay Zakatul Fitri as commanded in the Holy Quran will make their spiritual commitment accepted and their shortcomings forgiven by Allah. Abdullahi Ajia in this report examines this religious task of Zakatul Fitri payable to the needy before the Eid al-Fitr prayer.
In the light of the glorious Quran and the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Zakatul Fitr is an important aspect in Islam to complement and complete the Ramadan fast for acceptance. Islamic scholars maintain that this spiritual act is mandatory by those who can feed themselves to use it to cleanse their deeds and actions, especially their shortcomings during the holy month. Zakatul Fitr, scholars explain, is an act of ibadah starting from 2 days to the Eid al-Fitr and before the Eid prayer.
In Surah Al-A'la, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى وَذَكَّرَ اسْمَ رَبِّهِ وَصَلَّى. Such a person who tries to cleanse himself has succeeded. He becomes a successful Muslim. All those little things that you are forbidden to do, as a human being, you are not perfect. If you come by them, that Zakatul Fitri will erase them for you and make your fasting intact.
Very important for every Muslim to pay his Zakatul Fitr before going to the Eid ground.
In the interest of believers, it was also established that 4 handfuls of 2 palms of grains, or using the required measure per person, should be given to the needy.
To make the poor ones, the needy, happy on Salah day. While you are rejoicing and you are happy in your home, eating different kind of foods, we want those who are not in position to buy food for themselves, who cannot even feed themselves, to be happy too. That is why you are supposed to pay them that Zakatul Fitri, so that they can have what to eat with their family, that will make them happy, that will show that they are also celebrating Salah.
However, the grains can be monetized if it is more convenient to the giver and the beneficiary.
Remember that as teaching time saves 9, just like the scholars said, it is better to do the Zakatul Fitr within this time frame, because doing it after the Eid al-Fitr prayer is termed as doing Sadaqah. In Abuja, I am Abdullahi Ajia, NTA News.
And in a bid to ensure hitch-free Salah celebration, the Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, has mandated command commissioners of police nationwide to ensure improved and watertight security during and after the Salah celebrations. Special attention is to be paid to all places of worship, critical public places, and other vulnerable points prone to criminal attacks. The Police High Command is hopeful that the operational strategies adopted by the force and renewed collaboration with the public will yield positive results. While felicitating with Muslims as they come to the end of the Ramadan fast, the Inspector General enjoins them and other citizens to maintain utmost vigilance and courageously continue to support the police and provide useful information towards preventing and unearthing crimes and their perpetrators. In the meantime, the National Hajj Commission's contingent in Saudi Arabia has inspected houses that will accommodate the 2015 Nigerian pilgrims to the Holy Land. Adamu Abdullahi reports on their findings.
Leading the team, Alhaji Usman Shamaki stated that they are in Medina to inspect and verify the quality of accommodations acquired and the type of services being provided by the agents contracted. The team is also to ensure that pilgrims are housed close to the Holy Mosque for easier access.
This year, our
schools have paid exorbitant amount of money, ranging from 450,000 naira to 500,000, and in some instances up to 600,000 naira to travel for purposes of Umrah to Saudi Arabia. So the National Hajj Commission wants to ensure that the money is being, the purpose for the payment is achieved.
The team was also in Mecca to monitor the Umrah pilgrims and their accommodations ahead of the Eid al-Fitr celebration, where most Umrah pilgrims are expected to return home. Meanwhile, the head of Licensing and Operations Department, Alhaji Liman Usman Muhammad, and his team had also presented licenses to approved service providers, comprising 21 accommodation providers in Mecca and Medina, and 22 caterers, with 4 in Medina and 18 in Mecca.
Issue as the National Human Rights Commission played host to the leadership of the National Council of Women's Societies in Nigeria. At the meeting, the women who declared their readiness to partner with the Commission appealed for intensification of efforts towards addressing the challenge.
This is why we're here today, to identify with them and collaborate with them in all they are doing. When it comes to women issue, we have been fighting for the rights of women.
The Executive Secretary of the Commission, Professor Bem Anwe, directed the blame at the women for not coming forth with reports of many victims of domestic violence for fear of stigmatization and the prospects of seeing their breadwinner go to jail.
So what is important in this country is to ensure that we have social security protection for every Nigerian, so that a husband who has been accused of coming in conflict with the law through an act of domestic violence can still be prosecuted and punished, and yet the woman will still have an opportunity of taking care of herself, taking care of her children, and paying the school fees of her children.
The Commission says about 200 complaints of domestic violence and rape are reported daily to it nationwide, and advised the federal government to fashion out a social security mechanism that will enable the Commission function effectively. In Abuja, Joy Uzo, NTA News.
Experts have expressed concern that more than 400 Nigerian languages may likely go extinct in the next 15 years. Azomta Onwebule was at a media briefing where the issue of neglect of an institute for promoting Nigerian indigenous languages took the center stage.
Nigeria is estimated to have 521 indigenous languages. Out of this number, the major spoken languages in Nigeria are English, Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. A recent UNESCO research shows that 25% of children below 11 years are unable to speak their parents' indigenous languages. How true is this?
Can you speak Igbo very well?
No.
Why?
I can't just speak it.
Can you speak Nupe very well?
No, I cannot speak, but I can speak a little bit.
I am from Nupe. Say it in Nupe language.
Auntie, I cannot say it though.
The National Institute for Nigerian Languages, established in 1992 at Umar Okaya in Abia State, was designed to help promote the teaching of Nigerian languages. However, the representative of the governing council of the institute, Dr. Nana Aishatu Abdulkadri, says the institute has not lived up to its mandate due to inadequate funding.
There's no classes, there's no...
By the time we start operating the 2015 budget, the school would have its own budget and it will be able to operate.
Indigenous languages are dying by the day or are going extinct because their usage is reducing. Parents are not interested in teaching their children the indigenous languages. The school system is not helping matters.
Charity, they say, begins at home. Going by this saying, experts are advocating the use of mother tongue at home to ensure that Nigerian languages do not go extinct in the nearest future. In Abuja, Azomta Onwebule, NTA News.
Thank you, Azomta. I believe that preserving our indigenous languages is a means of preserving our culture and identity. Well, we've got a bit on the global scene and sports coming up shortly on News Extra. Join us again.
So, Afana, don't you do so? Na promo. You step on become millionaire. You never hear say NAFDAC don't bring wetin dem call mobile authentication service. We go help us know whether medicine na fake or not before we pay. Now, come see. As I scratch this thing wey be like recharge card so, come send the pin to 38353 free of charge. I will call receive text message to confirm. Okay, original. Troy, just like that, we confirm whether medicine na fake or not instant. Now when you sef don wise up, make you help NAFDAC spread the story na the way be that. Madam, come and take your money.
Now, National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, they bring on this message.
On the foreign scene, Global Witness points at European timber companies as catalysts in the war in Central African Republic. And South Africa's Archbishop Desmond Tutu expected out of hospital in days after admission for persistent infection. Plus, NASA's spacecraft sends signal from Pluto. These and more on Global Tidbits with Chimdima Ndubwisi.
The report released by Global Witness, an international non-governmental organization, alleges that timber dealers from some European countries helped fuel the war in Central African Republic, which caused the death of thousands of people. The companies paid more than $4 million to rebels during the crisis in 2013 for protection services. European Union was also criticized for allowing illegal timber imports in the zone during the crisis. In Liberia, a woman has died from Ebola virus, making it the second person to die from the disease since its resurgence. But health authorities say the recent outbreak is under control. And it was a historic moment in NASA's space travel when New Horizons spacecraft successfully sent data from Pluto to Earth through a dish in Madrid, Spain. NASA's administrator says the mission completes a visit to every planet in the solar system. In the meantime, leader of the Taliban in Afghanistan has lent his support to the peace talks with the government being negotiated by Pakistan. The government had met with only the representatives of the Taliban last week. That's Global Tidbits. Chimdema Ndubisi, NTA News.
And on the sports scene, the newly constructed Adoki Amiasiamaka Stadium main ball will host its first football match on Sunday when the nation's under-23 side Dream Team 6 file out against their Congolese counterparts in Africa Under-23 qualifier meant for Rio 2016 football event. Sonny Ubo reports.
The Adoke Amiasiamaka Stadium main ball has a green lush natural grass good enough to attract good football, and so the nation's under-23 side, tutored by Coach Samson Siasia, have no reason to complain on the playing turf. A member of the local organizing committee, Honor Serawu, say they are ready and Port Harcourt will benefit playing hosts.
The impact of hosting a national team, what it creates for the young boys that are itching to play football, the unity it creates for the state, the security impression that it gives, and of course the boost it gives to the economy.
Meanwhile, football fans will have the opportunity of watching Dream Team 6 free, courtesy of Rivers State Governor Chief Nyesom Wike, and this will translate to massive support for the nation's flag bearer.
The governor of the state, Mr. Nyesom Wike, has been gracious enough to pay for all the tickets, and so entrance is free.
The 40,000-seater all-covered main ball will come alive on Sunday. Finally, the main ball of the Adoke Amiasiamaka Stadium is set to host its first competitive game as the Dream Team 6, the nation's under-23 side, plays host to their Congolese counterpart in a crucial Olympic qualifier. And expectations are high that the arena will be filled with cheering Nigerians who are itching for victory for the nation's side. From the Adoke Amiasiamaka Stadium, I'm Sonny Ubo, NTA News.
In the meantime, the new Super Eagles coach, Sunday Olise, was on Wednesday unveiled in Abuja. He is being assisted by 3 others in his new job. Amanzi Marcus tells us more.
Leadership of the Nigeria Football Federation on Wednesday unveiled the new Super Eagles coach Sunday Ogochukwu Olise. His main task is to qualify Nigeria to the Championship of African Nations, the Africa Cup of Nations, and the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia. The contract binding NFF and Olise is performance-based and for 3 years with an option of 1 year renewal. President of Nigeria Football Federation Amma Joe Pinnick said discipline and membership of Olise in the FIFA Technical Study Group are among credentials the new technical advisor will bring to bear on his new job.
As a member of the FIFA Technical Study Group, which I know, you travel from the length and breadth of the world, acquiring knowledge, giving out knowledge, coaching coaches, teaching teachers.
The new coach who has succeeded.
Nigeria is doing me a favor, but it's an honor for me to say I am coaching my country.
40-year-old Sunday Olise replaced Stephen Keshi, another former Super Eagles player who was sacked on the 4th of July. With Sports News Update, Amanzi Marcus, NTA News.
That's it on the program for this week. See you again next week. From the production team and me, thank you for your company. And to our Muslim brothers and sisters, here is saying Eid Mubarak in advance.